Hey everybody, this is Ty from K2 Data Science and Engineering. In this video, we'll discuss sentiment analysis and how we can use it in Python. Let's check our pipeline first before discussing anything further. We're going to be exploring the second part of our pipeline, so sentiment analysis, and then we'll be using the Python package called TextBlob. Now, before we dive into the code, which will be only a few additional lines to our script, let's explore the topic of sentiment analysis. So what is sentiment analysis? Simply, it's the process of determining whether a piece of writing is positive, negative, or neutral. It's also known as opinion mining, deriving the opinion or attitude of a speaker. A common use case for this technology is to discover how people feel about a particular topic. Here you can see two examples, one of positive sentiment, "I love the weather in San Diego," and then another sentence, "I hate the music at this bar." That would be a negative sentiment. As you can see, sentiment analysis only works if you have customer feedback to examine. So the other common use cases are to analyze social media responses, feedback or customer surveys, and automated parsing of reviews or news articles or research reports. So I just want to explain how this works. I'm going to avoid any math or diving any formulas. But to start off, you need a trained corpus. Now this could either be a group of sentences that are labeled. In a lot of cases, early corpus were trained by grad students. They would sit down and go through articles and identify whether that sentence was positive, negative, or neutral. In other cases, there are corpus that are identified. Words are identified as almost like a dictionary, whether they're usually positive or negative or neutral, as well as how that is affected by other words in the sentence. So it can be very complex whether words are used as different parts of speech or different parts of the sentence or in combination with other words. Once you have that trained corpus, and there's many out there for people to use for free, you don't have to train your own, then you can use a machine learning algorithm or a rule-based model. One of the most common is the naive Bayes algorithm, which is a family of probabilistic algorithms that uses the Bayes theorem to predict the sentiment of text. And essentially what that does is it's been trained on a corpus and it looks at the relative distribution of word frequency. So if we have a sentence, "I love San Diego," it's going to look at the relative word frequency of those words in the distribution of positive sentences and negative sentences. And clearly there'll be more overlap with the positive sentences, so it will assign it a higher positive score since it matches up with the other positive sentences that are in the trained corpus. This is a really simplistic explanation. If you are looking for more details about sentiment analysis, check out the link in the extra resources. The last topic I want to cover before we dive into the code is the different types of sentiment. Normally we hear about polarity. That's the easiest, positive, negative, or neutral. However, there are other types of sentiment. You can look at subjectivity. For example, a product review, you can gauge how subjective or objective someone is being. Then there are also emotions: angry, happy, sad. And then we also have intentions, such as whether someone is interested in something or not interested in something. So when you add multiple layers of sentiment, this is what is called multidimensional sentiment analysis. In this video, we'll just look at polarity, but the TextBlob package also allows you to examine subjectivity. If you want to do much further, more in-depth multidimensional sentiment analysis, you usually have to build your own custom classifiers and find a very unique corpus. Alright, now we're back to the code file, and we haven't made too many changes. At the top we have imported our text blob package, and then pretty much here is where we bring it into play. So when you're using text blob, you have to create a new text blob object, and then within that object there are certain methods. So we put in the tweet text, and then we extract out the sentiment, and then the sentiment has a couple different methods, and then we extract out the polarity value and then the subjectivity value, and then we simply just add it to our tweet item that we already have, and then we can just log out our tweet item as we did before. So I have the brands on the bottom. I'll just add pizza again, because it might take a while to run. And then I'll bring in terminal and run the code. And hopefully we'll get some matches. Okay, we got some pizza matches. But you can see here, I should probably stop this. But you can see there's a lot of text where the polarity is 0, subjectivity is 0. Some are in foreign languages, so it's probably not able to identify those. Let's see, we'll go to the top. Okay, so one of the first tweet was, it's in, can't really tell if, I don't think that's Spanish, is it Portuguese maybe? But polarity and subjectivity is 0. That might have to do with the foreign language. So one other thing you can do is you could use text blob to translate these messages from Spanish or another foreign language to English. It actually makes API calls to Google Translate, so it can automatically detect what language it is and translate it to a specified language such as English. So we'll keep going. So here we had a message, had Pizza Hut, it was fine I guess, had a few jellies and bought this. So the polarity is slightly positive, and then subjectivity is slightly subjective. Here again it's in a foreign language, and then you can see that it's not able to get it because they're in foreign languages. And then here we have another item. Pink Frong had a song about pizza, which caused a demand for pizza from the fridge that we don't have. So polarity is negative. You can see probably because they don't have pizza, that don't have is negative, and then subjective, you can see it's close to 0, but you can tell the person is kind of talking about their situation rather than just stating a fact. We don't have pizza in the fridge. Now, one other thing when you're working with text data, and maybe I'll cover this in a future series about natural language processing, is that one other thing you would want to do when you're analyzing sentiment is remove characters and weird symbols. So for example, specifically on Twitter, there's a lot of @ signs and emojis and weird ASCII characters. So you definitely want to remove those, because in the corpus they probably don't exist. So when it analyzes it and tries to guess its sentiment, those are throwing it off and messing up the weighting. So that's something you'll definitely want to do. But for now, this is working with pizza. We didn't really get any of our brands, but in the later video I'll show you what it looks like when we have some brands. I'll leave the filter on for an hour or so, and we'll have enough posts. And I believe that's all I wanted to cover here. Oh, here's a really good example. I just wanted to show one. The person tweeted, I had a crap day. I intend to eat way too much pizza and watch the Liverpool game. So you can tell this is, I had a bad day. Polarity is negative here. And then the subjectivity, right? They're really talking about their own personal situation. So I think this is a great example of what you can see when you have like a properly formatted text and it's actually interesting and about the topic. All right, that does it for this video. I hope you learned a little bit about sentiment analysis and how to use the text blob package. In the next video, we're going to dive into Redis and store our tweets so that we can access them later on our web app dashboard.